at the end of the album, it's like, I am so afraid of actually truly doing this. Please, I can't do this by myself. Can you help me find a way out of the dark, or is it too late?
Hi Adrienne, hi Jack. Great to see you again. Your album has been out for a while now, and we said last time we want to talk more about this epic album, want to unpack it more. So I'm super excited today that we have a little bit more time. Although, first things first, how are you? Because Adrienne, the first thing that I saw this morning when I was getting up and helping my kid get ready for school or for daycare was a story on your Instagram saying, I never want to see a screen or a phone for a million years anymore. Everybody leave me alone. So are we still good for today?
Wait, what?
You posted
an
Instagram story saying that I'm so done with everything. I need to have a break from screens for a while.
I don't think I posted anything about screens, but I definitely wrote that I don't want to do. It was having to do with
no work whatsoever. Leave me alone. And then I'm like, oh great, I'm gonna or something.
It was summer travels with checked luggage, and then it was that I cleaned the kitchen so that I could cook my first hot meal of the day at almost 3 a.m. because I worked all day. But I'm very happy to be here.
Okay,
so
good.
Just to get that straight.
I saw that too. I was like, I'm so glad I don't have any work scheduled tomorrow. And I was like, all right, let's see if she shows up.
Well, hey, maybe you don't consider
this is a pleasure.
Work, so there we go.
Exactly.
There we go. Fantastic.
This is a happy thing to do today. This is not calling the Social Security office about a tax form. This is not calling the freaking airlines about my lost luggage. We get to talk about our art.
Exactly.
Celebrate our victories.
Exactly. And luckily, very little airlines and planning in your near future, right? Because it's
absolutely none.
You're just gonna sit at home for a year. You're definitely not going to play more festivals with Avantasia. You're definitely not going to go on tour with Lords of the Trident to Japan, and you guys are definitely not playing Wacken next year. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, that was only like the coolest announcement we've ever made, and it's only something that we've worked towards for like 11 years.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
I remember like sitting in a little apartment in Boston. Like we just met like a few weeks ago, and we're just like sitting there dream building, like, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do this, and we're running out of things that we said. So it's time.
That's true.
Time to set some new ones, maybe.
We got to dream some new dreams.
There you go. Like follow Metallica and play on Antarctica, and maybe be the first metal band in space or something like that. That would be sick. So is that like announcement Instagram post already printed out in frame somewhere, Jack? And there's a lot of room behind you there for some wall art.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. It's just out of frame, but I have our vinyls on the wall up there.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little annoying because there are 2 of them. There are 3 out right now, but I can only have 2 on the walls because it needs to be an even number. But then we need to do another one so that I can fit 4 up there, and then it'll look okay.
All right. Okay. Well, so
all the interesting stuff is out of frame.
Exactly. So not an even number of albums ever. So we know that there's going to be at least 10 or 12 or 14 in the future.
Certainly not 7.
Not 7.
No.
You cannot have 7. That no. You said dream building, and that might be the perfect segue into this album, because at the end of the day, you guys tell dreamlike stories, and sometimes those dreams are can be hopeful. Sometimes they might
they're nightmares.
More on the other side. But let's go into this album because there's so much to unpack, and both from a lyrical and a musical perspective, because you guys play around with so many things, and we've seen you do that before. Obviously, we talked about that in the last interview, but everything kind of is like, Spinal Tap reference turned up to 11 on this album. You guys weave different melodies and different tempos in between each other, on top of each other, which is really cool. And it creates a unique sound for this album. Like, even within the eclectic discography that you're building, it's almost I feel it's very easy when I hear a song, when I just put like a playlist of all your music. Oh, that's one of the new album. Do you have that as well? Like, are you still too close to it? Are you already a little bit more removed that you can look back on all these things and where everything fits in the bigger story? Because for me, this album really has a unique identity. Do you agree with that, or are you like, Jasper, what are you talking about?
I mean, I would for sure say it has a very unique identity within our discography. I mean, in a big way, because Jack did the production on it. So already sonically, it has a completely different personality, I would say. And it's not to say anything good or bad about Zasha's work on our previous albums. It just is different.
Yeah, I would agree. Like that's definitely a subconscious thing for a lot of people. Like it does sound and feel very different because it was a different person doing the audio stuff. But I do also feel like with each album we practice putting things into place, like weaving different tempos, different polyrhythms, different just layers of stuff together. In like, sometimes it's hard to make those things work, but then we bring that, here's how to make it work, to the next one, and then we can build on that. So I feel like it does, like there's usually an addition of stuff as we go on. And for me, I'm still pretty close to it. Like it's fresh and it's new and it's just been released into the world. So it's hard to tell maybe where it fits in overall, but I'm still like hyped up on it, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. Not yet in the postpartum depression stage just yet.
Yeah, no, we'll get there for sure.
Yeah. So the album kicks off obviously with the title track, which is an extended intro. There's a lot of different flavors that we get. You know, there's some more exotic flavors in the singing as well that we hear in the background. We get some Epica vibes as well, maybe like early 2000 Epica vibes. But then this album really kicks out with, like Consigned to Oblivion for me sometimes came to mind when I was listening to your album. But then we get, Songs Upon Wine-Stained Tongues. That song, although it's not been like a focus track for the album necessarily, we've had a bunch of singles that we saw videos. That song kind of feels to me that it has a bit of everything that then follows on the album. And there's a bit of a bookend, I think, with the last track as well. But that song is kind of like, here's our business card. Like, hey, you've never heard us before. Here, listen to this song.
Here's 9 minutes.
Exactly. Here's what we can do. Was there some sort of thought going into that you wanted to start? And I know that there's an intro before that, but did you want to start the album with just like this smorgasbord or buffet of this is everything that we do? Okay, you're on board. Now we're going to take you into more specific territory with the next song. Like, what was the thought process going into that?
I mean, musically, I don't think that was necessarily a consideration. As with most of our songs, usually we identify like the core personality of the song and let it develop itself. And it just so happens that it made sense for this to be the first track or the first full-fledged song, I guess, because of the questions it poses thematically, lyrically. And as you said, like, it's bookended with the last song, which after all is said and done within the album, that's sort of the answer. So that's just from the lyricist's perspective of like, it's so scary to invite somebody into my fortress called home and blah blah blah. Nobody's visited for a long time, and maybe you can tell me about yourself. And my walls are dusty and cobwebby, but I can still cook you a nice meal. And wow, we're not. Yeah, at 3 exactly. It's gonna be home fries with bacon and Parmesan flakes on top. Anyway, and then at the end of the album, it's like, I am so afraid of actually truly doing this. Please, I can't do this by myself. Can you help me find a way out of the dark, or is it too late?
Yeah.
But you want to talk about go ahead.
No, I just want, like, because we kind of already talk about, jumping completely ahead to the old herd of being left behind, where the first song kicks off an album that is a roller coaster of melancholia and despair and feeling alone. But in that final track, we do get some glimmer of hope, at least I feel, from the music. Like, is that the way? Because you say, like, the way that you position it now is very much open-ended, but the music gives me more hope than the traditional open end, if you will. Is this, knowing that this is an extremely dark roller coaster throughout, is at the end of the day a hopeful album from your perspective?
I think there's definitely like a subliminal yearning for, like, what if everything's actually everything that we dreamed it could be? Because while it's never maybe directly said, what Adrienne just said about it being scary and there are all these things that could kind of go wrong, I do feel like setting the album up to set the stage for people to experience the roller coaster in the right way, and then hitting them at the end with, like, I know this was a fucking ride, I know this is terrifying, but what if it's okay? Right. At least to me, is a really, really beautiful thing, and like mirrors real life in a nice way, and I think musically it kind of does the same thing. Like, I would think those are the two most, like, riffy songs as well, maybe. And I think hitting everybody with everything at once makes it easier to digest the rest of the album, but then also, whoa.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the right
disappeared.
Okay, we'll do this. This was the best.
Then,
sorry.
No. And then as you go on that journey, it brings new meaning to what came before it as well. So it's sort of like there's a lot of repeat listen value as well. At least I feel like.
There's a bit of you give us a little bit more room to breathe, maybe, as Almosttown starts, we get Camelot vibes for sure, although I think at the very start, maybe a little bit of She Is My Sin riffing, not collaboration, but tribute to Nightwish almost at the very start there. Is there some truth to that?
Yeah, a little bit. Even more newer Nightwish stuff, like Endless Form's Most Beautiful, kind of whatever they have going on with there. I love the really uplifting vibe of Tomas's writing when he's talking about, like, the joy of just being alive on this earth in this moment. Say what you will about that album or that theme or whatever, but I think there are so many beautiful, uplifting musical moments, and I wanted to kind of put some of that into this song that's otherwise a very lonely look into some other stuff.
No, for sure. And I'm happy to go on record that I think that album by Nightwish is a great album.
Me too. I think they're all great.
Again, like, you guys take us on that roller coaster because we get like the, hey, I'm happy to be alive, yay, and then you take us down into the depth of more like Candlemas flavored stuff than Camelot when we go into Impossible Tower. And Adrienne, you fully unleash your inner demons, if we will, through your vocal style. Sounds like a terrifying but maybe a very fun song to record.
Impossible Tower?
Yeah.
I think that one was quite fun, but it was specifically like just abandon all technique,
right?
And just emote. When I was working with my voice teacher, I sent him the demos, and I was like, if you have any feedback on like the right way to deliver certain things, like to effectively communicate feelings and blah blah blah. This one, I think he said, this is the start of your villain arc, so be fucking scary. And so there are a lot of like snarling, like unearthly, like animalistic type of sounds that I didn't really experiment with before because I was so focused on like, yeah, I'm gonna be as brutal as I can be. But this time it was just like, I don't fucking care about any of that. It's time to just be nasty, I think, could be a word that I would
totally
use.
Nasty. Disgusting.
Nasty. Yeah.
Did you in that process, like it sounds like you just, even still after all these years, discover different side of your voice that you didn't really play with before? Should we expect to see more of that then in, that album number 8 that one day will come?
It happens every time.
Yeah, true.
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, we're all lifelong students of our crafts. I think I could easily say that. And I think we all love to push the limits and see what's possible. And I think as a storyteller, it's sort of our solemn duty and greatest pleasure to find new and more effective ways of doing that. And so if I can be even nastier, then even nastier I shall be.
There we go.
I was chatting with I was chatting with Simon, formerly of The Agonist, the other day. He had just listened to the album and had nice things to say, and was talking the same thing about her voice, all these new things happening. And I realized it's like, I've known you for 10, 11, going on 12 years now. And every single time, it's just when I think I know all the tricks in the bag, it's then there's all this new stuff that just blows my mind. And especially to record that stuff now too is so fun. And I love the evolution of the voice and what it can bring to the songs, and the lyrical transition from something like Almosttown to something like Impossible Tower is such a stark contrast. But then because it's the same person doing all of this stuff, it really is just that much more beautiful, I think. It's not I say this outside of me, not tooting my own horn. It's not about me.
But we can put the lens on you as well, because after that song we go into Love Souvenir, where I think we see some of your most exciting work on this album, as not as a producer but as a guitar player. We talked in detail last time about that specific song because, one, I really love this song. B, this was a very, very, very emotional song for Adrienne, clearly. And then Jack also talked about, you trying to help, bring that out from a musical perspective. One of the things I love so much about it is when you play very uplifting guitar work and solos over blast beats and crazy, and again, bringing those different tempos at the same time. And it's kind of it's super wild because you stay so controlled almost, it's in the chaos. And I think was Adrienne saying last time we talked about it, it's in the chaos, it can be one thing you can anchor on, and that can kind of give you direction or make you sane. And your guitar often in this song is exactly that. There's a million things going on, and there's this beautiful guitar solo and line that you're playing in that. Looking back now, on it's been out a little bit, and I've seen more than a few people talk about this song specifically. What did you know when you were recording this that this was going to be a song that was going to be talked about because of the emotional lyrics, the vocal performance, the different arrangements? It stands out on this album for me.
I think we knew with that one. It's pretty insane in all ways. The musical genre transitions and the density and the different textures, and then the guitar solo is definitely one of my favorites. That's one of those things where you can play the notes, but getting them to speak and breathe in the right way is really hard. I could spend a day recording a solo like that, where some of the faster stuff is a couple of takes and we're good. Because it just has to it has to belt in the same way that Adrienne does when singing the chorus. And I think some of my favorite musical expressions that I've done is trying to first emulate what she does and then do my version of that. And I think that's what I did there, and that's what makes it great for me.
Yeah. Now, we said earlier that we've got, the Songs Upon Wine-Stained Tongues and then the Old Herd of Being Left Behind are kind of like bookends. But then in the middle of the album, we've got Love Souvenir and then Architect of Creation that almost feel like inverse songs, if you will. You know, Love Souvenir is extremely hard at times to listen to from if you're really in the song, but there's still that hopeful music, and we get a lot of Devin Townsend maybe inspiration. All of a sudden we get drawn into Cradle territory, and where Love Souvenir starts slow and soft and tender, there's no time for that in Architect. Is that just me seeing parallels or inverse parallels between these two, or is it again a reason why these two songs make sense one after the other?
I have an answer to this. Do you have an answer to this?
Go for it.
Okay. I think the thing that makes them connected is Love Souvenir is very much like a pit of a certain kind of depression. And very much like this pain, this sadness, this like lowest low that you can get to. Often when you come out of that, it manifests as like, you have to find something to like snap you out of it, and it can manifest as rage. So I think Architect is this like reclaim your power, like I'm gonna, not be this way anymore. And it comes off angry but strong, but still like hurting under the surface. So that's sort of what I think makes the two connected, because they make sense linearly if you experience this kind of thing. And musically, of course, same thing, death metal. This is good. Would you agree, or am I off? Or
I always thought that Architect puts the manic in manic depression, and Love Souvenir is absolutely the lowest low. So yeah, I mean, I didn't get this formal diagnosis, but if I look in the mirror and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bitch? There it is.
The power of fuck you.
It compels me. Yeah, but as you described, sometimes when you come out of this super low, you need, or I need something. And sometimes I have the type of brain that sometimes I'm lucky enough to wake up and feel like I could kill God and then become him. And that's absolutely what Architect of Creation is. And sometimes these days come after a day of, or a month of rotting in bed, or 6 months, as the case may be.
And arm in arm walks through the emerald necklace of Boston.
We get a little breathing room after that first with Portrait of Us, where we go, again, a very different song, but we get maybe a little bit more that Camelot-y feel that we had earlier in the album as well. And then followed by, obviously, Emerald Necklace, which, just for the word Boston in the lyrics a few times, makes it like a song that a lot of people all of a sudden kind of have this hook or this anchor with. And, a lot of people, especially, well, obviously, a lot of your home scene, but a lot of people in the north, east of North America, have at one point been to Boston, and it's one of those songs where you don't realize, or you don't expect in this crazy ride, that all of a sudden, just mentioning this one thing, at least for me, all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, last time I was in Boston, I did this and this and this, and it just gives me a completely different way of listening to the song than all of the previous songs, and it makes it a little bit more maybe easy for me to think to put the song on me, versus really having to dig into my darker self, if you will. It came very naturally, and it is obviously a unique song because it's completely different, almost like an old folk tune that you guys bring us. When songs are vastly different than other songs on an album, they tend to be very special for the people that made them. Is it then also a fair assessment that this one is one of those that is extra special? Like everybody loves all their kids, but this kid is just a little bit more fun than others?
I mean, this is a question for you, Jack.
For me?
I'm pretty sure you've said multiple times, as far as I remember, that this is your favorite one on the album.
I think so. I think, part of, like you said, we actually talked for a while about whether we wanted to include Boston in the lyrics, because we've always been in, you know, fantasy world, so to speak, or the prison of our mind, or whatever it is. So anchoring it in a real place is, you know, something we did talk about. Like, you know, is it going to disrupt the canon, or whatever you want to say?
We also thought about making a made up city name that rhymed with Boston, but it was just like Loston, Zoston, Yoston, Gross. Like, just fucking say Boston. It's fine.
Right.
Like, the band formed there. Like, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and like all the imagery of like you know, warm drinks, perpetual autumn, the emerald necklace is like, this is such a very specific imagery and feeling that to change that kind of would have changed the meaning of the song in some way. Right. So I think it was right to keep it as is, and I think because of that, it does make it a little extra special.
Well, and there's this, and I don't know if that was intended or, you know, in the storyline, if you will, but because of that, and it kind of snaps me to like, oh, and there's like real world, or the I mean, everything is real world, but you know, it's, you know, I have to go outside. For me, that song is almost like I've had now 5 or 6 intense songs, this storm that is going on in the mind, but I actually have to get out of the door and I have to walk outside, and I have to make sure that I don't kill everybody that I see, and that like more quiet, tender, and at times upbeat start of that song, for me it almost felt like this sometimes that I have to go outside with a smile and go get, you know, groceries, even if before I opened the door I never thought I could potentially do that. Is that a way of interpreting it, or am I really projecting now?
I mean, I think that's a beautiful way to view the song, especially in the context of the full album. That's totally, I feel like that very often, to be honest. But I think there's, at least again from the lyricist perspective, there's a huge amount of anticipatory grief in the song. You're already mourning something that's not yet lost. So, I mean, maybe that's something that I swallow down every time I go outside. I'm probably not the only one. Probably everybody. But yeah, I actually never really thought of it the way you described it, but I really like that. Maybe I'll start saying that in the interviews instead.
yeah. Trademark it before we jump on that. But I also think just like what Adrienne said, like I haven't thought about it in that way before either. But it is really cool to think about it that way in context. And also part of what I think is special about writing with such raw human emotion is that people do and will project their own experiences and their own meanings onto things. And that's right. Like, you know, you should do that, and that's meaningful. Like things that we never intended to put in there can come from someone's interpretation of it, and that's what makes it transcend just us telling a story. I think that's a super beautiful thing.
Emerald Necklace may be a little bit more fragile at parts, but then I kind of felt that the next song, you know, Where Sorrow Bears My Name, even though it is obviously much, much heavier, all of a sudden again, maybe one of the most fragile songs on the album as well. A really interesting like discrepancy again that you bring with this song. It's hard to really classify it, you know, in a way. What's going on there?
Oh man, this
more deep-seated yearning.
Absolutely. This, I think, if I remember correctly, there's such a horrible sinking feeling of like emotional homelessness in this song, and I think that's like incredibly fragile and just a terrible thing to, I mean, it's a terrible thing, period. And I think the way living with that can hit you like a fucking truck sometimes, and sometimes you're like cruising softly and it's okay. And I think also I was thinking quite a bit about like recent Swallow the Sun releases when we were working on this.
I'm always
and also not so.
Jack, you almost spat out your drink when Adrienne said that. There's more to this story.
No, I'm glad she said that, because I'm always thinking about recent Swallow the Sun releases. And my love for that band and that style of music, like bands like Draconian and Catatonia, like definitely came into, like, there's a lot of sneaky acoustic guitar stuff that's just under the surface there. And then the choirs from David Akesson and his daughter Angelica is another super beautiful texture. There's some Pete clean vocals for, I think, is it the first time on the album that we get Pete cleans at that point? I think so too. So there are a lot of these really like inherently beautiful textures on top of this, also very heavy, gross kind of stuff. So that contrast also really excites me. So that's what I was smirking about.
No,
now that you've said this, I think it's also quite interesting that we have so many like additional organic elements, like many new actual voices, sneaky acoustic guitars, everything. But the song itself still feels, you can see my broken nail. The song itself still feels so cold and alone. And yet there's all this warmth in the instruments itself. So, I mean, you must have done quite a lot to achieve this during the like production stages.
Yeah, it was very important to do that, I think. And another thing that's like the lead vocals, there's almost always like a clean and a scream at the same time, and you don't really know which one is the primary thing. And I also thought that was super important. And then to have these warm textures washed in a cold space with like cold delays and reverbs and stuff helped give that effect too, because I wanted it to sound like the lyrics feel.
I think you totally did that. And also, I mean, what you said about the lead vocals, like you don't know if the clean one or the extreme one is the true lead. But also with these feelings of like, what is it to be known, to be seen, to forgive, like blah blah blah. The whole song talking about the below the surface locked away, there lies the truth, the villain's reign, where sorrows, blah blah blah. Like, you could also equate the vocal question of like, which one is the true one? You could say like, is it me? Am I actually the villain? Am I causing all of these problems, or is it something else? Could it be the demon inside, or am I actually not a bad person?
Yeah, and it's one of those tough things too, like this feeling of hope of what is it to be known, to be seen, to forgive, and then also all the bad, the verse lyrics and things like this. Having those two textures, like, and never knowing which one is the primary, it's like, where is this coming from? Like, yes, I feel this way about it, but which inner voice is telling me, and should I believe it? And it like, that ambiguousness, I think, is also like very real.
So
I think it's very interesting that you find this. Sorry, just wanted to say, I think it's very interesting that you find this lyric hopeful. Like, what is it to be known, to be seen, to forgive? Because in asking this, if you don't know, doesn't that mean you never experienced it or felt it? So just the act of asking it feels so fucking heart-wrenching to me. Anyway,
it is yearning, not hopeful.
Okay.
So it's like, but it's a positive thing that you are searching for. It's like, if I get this thing, it's gonna feel so fucking good. But I don't know, and I don't know where it's coming from, and I don't know how to get there.
Got it.
It's almost like making an effort to have good, to be good, might even be worth more than actually being good without feeling that you're making an effort in a weird way. But anyway, now we're getting in real deep territory here. Actually, so a question then, because you say like this, or you both say like this not really knowing what inner feeling or voice is dominating, and then all the then implications on that. Like, am I good? Am I bad? Am I bad person trying to become good, or am I a good person being dragged into the darkness? Does that then kind of fall away when you one day perform this song live, and Adrienne has to sing one one vocal in the lead, and basically she then has the power to decide, I'm going to put this line in the lead or the other line. Like, how hard is it? And I hope that all of these songs that one day will be played live. But, you know, how hard is it for a band like you guys with a million layers? But at the end of the day, there's 4 people on stage. And yes, there's stage magic, and you can bring to life everything, but you can only choose one thing that Adrienne sings at the same time. Does that take away then some of that meaning when you have to make that call? Like, how hard is that?
I don't like to think that it takes away some of the meaning, but unfortunately, maybe it does. But I think more distracting would be if I did every single difficult thing and then couldn't make it through the show. So there's a point where I have to know my limits and give the best that I can give. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I haven't really thought about, especially that one in particular, where that, you know, 2 different kinds of leads happening at the same time is so important. I mean, we also have Pete doing extreme vocals too, so he can pick up some of the slack where one of the other is going on. But I think maybe it's, if you actually look at it as a freeing thing, like you can choose which one to do on that day, which one you need to do like for physical reasons, but then also, you know, what message are you trying to send to the people in the crowd today? And are they going to echo back? Are they going to do the thing that you're not doing? Are they going to do the same thing? Like there's a lot of wiggle room there. And I think the album version would be, something would be lost if you muted one of those, but live, it's such a different experience that I would hope that nothing's gone. You know, it's not like we're gonna mute the guitar solos or anything. So.
Before we get to that epic closing song that we already talked about briefly earlier, we have 2 more songs that we go through, No Place for Us and House of Lies, which lots of hurt in those songs. And again, can be interpreted in so many different ways, you know, like House of Lies could, and just, you know, for me, you know, like being more like on the behind the scenes of the music industry, I thought for a second, like, this feels like Unleash the Archer's Dream Crusher, you know, like epic song, but it's really about how the industry has like been screwing them over at times, at least in those days. Understanding that all of these songs, including those 2, Adrienne, have been extremely personal and that you draw from your own experiences, but is there some truth to that even for the band? I know every listener will interpret the songs in a different way, but even for the band, that some of these songs have different meanings?
I mean, with, like, for Jack, a song means something different than it means for me?
No, I was specifically for the lyrics at this point. Like, do the lyrics always tell that one story that you draw, you know, your inspiration from? Or, you know, a song like House of Lies, for example, is that purely about your personal emotional journey, or is there potentially a different meaning there?
I would absolutely say, I mean, with basically every song, I was taught to write what I know, so I write from personal experiences, but also because I'm always writing lyrics about such stuff, it's not healthy for me to continue to open the same wound over and over again. And also, I mean, everybody, as we get older, we experience new things, and maybe a song can suddenly take on an additional or a new meaning. And so maybe I'm not singing about the original House of Lies anymore. Maybe now I'm singing about a different thing that I thought was this, and now I'm realizing that it's actually House of Lies, for example. And so I hope that will be the case, because otherwise it's fucking depressing.
Yeah. But everybody has their House of Lies to conquer, and it's a different we move places, or we rearrange like Jack did. Our furniture in the House of Lies. I don't know what that metaphor means anymore, but
Well, so, I think it's this like a super good answer, and if I can build on it,
for sure.
and use Emerald Necklace as an example, like if you think of that song as a character dreaming about walking through, the Emerald Necklace of Boston with someone that they're grieving or not, or remembering good times or whatever, like however you want to color that, that's a very specific event. But if you dig deeper and you get to the core feeling of anticipatory grief, then that can take on a lot of life and a lot of different meanings. So like with House of Lies, if it was about, the industry or a personal experience or all of these things, that's one thing. But if you get to the core feeling, it can mean all of those things, none of those things, or things that we never intended them to mean. So I think it's always important that we get to that core feeling and write from that place. Because it's so hard to define, it takes on more than we inject into it and becomes greater than.
And you brought it completely back to the start of this conversation where Adrienne said with the very first song, it's all about finding the identity of the song and then letting it evolve from there. Exactly. The beautiful weirdness about this whole thing is that from all that hurt can come not only a beautiful album, but then you take this to stages across the world and fans will have that crazy experience. You're gonna play the Mile High Power Festival, not just play, headline. So hopefully lots of new songs. You're gonna go to Japan. You're gonna go to Wacken for these first upcoming shows. To wrap us up, because I've extended more than enough of your time already, for which I'm very grateful. What can we expect for these upcoming shows?
Ooh.
There's going to be guitars, probably drums. We got
maybe
fast songs. We got slow songs. We've got exciting songs. Not so many boards. This is like a bit that Toby always did on my first tour with him. I always thought this was super funny. Why would you play boring songs? Anyway, we would play some classics. We would play some new stuff. I am training like a motherfucker to get through a headline set with these new songs. It's very challenging material, but at the same time, I would even say, I think because it was recorded so recently, it's like the current technique. So I'm not thinking that much when I'm
There's
singing
some muscle memory there still.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not like, oh, how can I do that? But with the older songs, they were recorded when I felt that I still had something to prove as a vocalist. So there's a lot of stuff that I would never write for myself now, because it's just like, why, Adrienne, why would you do this to yourself? But we still have to play the song. So I'm like, need to think about how to fight this battle and get through this part here. It's quite an endurance challenge, an Olympic marathon.
There you go.
Make it current.
Exactly. Jack, from your perspective, what's the one thing that especially maybe for this headline set that's coming up, what's the one thing that you look forward to most playing?
Yeah, the headline set is cool. I would say it's going to be, and probably what we try to do in general is, a little bit of everything, but with focus on the new stuff. So there will be a lot of new stuff. I'm really excited just to see what it feels like playing those songs together for the first time. Because aside from the couple that we've done on the last show, it's been, we've never played them all together before.
True.
So the energy is going to be cool. The fan reaction is going to be cool. I can't wait to make people cry. I just think
taken out of context, a weird thing to say, but great.
Yeah, I guess so. And like some of the parts also for me are like very challenging technically, so I'm practicing as well, and just really looking forward to it and having something new to present and promote and enjoy with other people is always exciting for me.
Awesome. Well, Adrienne and Jack, I cannot thank you enough for not only coming back to the show so quickly, but taking so much time when you finally had time to rest a little bit in between the craziness, to give us all these insights on all the different songs. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope a lot of footage will be recorded from all these shows, whether it's North America or Japan, and obviously Wacken next year, and everything that will happen before that show, because I'm sure you're going to be extremely busy until then. I can't wait to see all of that. Thank you so much, and I wish you the very best in headlining this fun new festival.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having us back.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.